Nick's Southern Heritage series. Country roads, take me home. Finally, we're heading back into Georgia. 70 years after Thomas Wolfe died, another asshole with the same name appeared and continued to piss people off. Tom Wolfe wrote the definitive novel of modern Atlanta, digging deep beneath the city's surface of bright lights and high adventure. Okay, I guess most people figured out that this kind of thing went on in the city, except for those who actually had to live there. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Wolfe was born in Richmond, Virginia, as far north as you can be while avoiding Yankeedom. Screw Maryland, they don't count. He worked as a journalist all over the country, including the Washington Post and the New York Herald. He covered stories from all walks of life, usually centering on small, slice-of-life stories rather than huge political matters and such. He also threw a lot of traditional journalism out the window, opting for his own technique called new journalism. He's actually more famous for his works of nonfiction, which include The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, about the guy who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The New Journalism, his manifesto on his reporting techniques, and The Right Stuff, a book about some astronauts. You might have heard of it. I haven't read his first novel, and it really is no business on this show. The Bonfire of the Vanities digs deep into the underbelly of 1980s New York, looking at the social and class struggles of the Big Apple's denizens, and how beneath the flare of topless skyscrapers are thousands of hungry people willing to do anything for $1. It's a sprawling epic, looking at the city from every point of view and every layer that the skyscrapers rest on. Or at least that's what I've been told. I actually read the first few pages, but something didn't feel right, and I just never finished it. Even so, the book was a huge seller and captured the imagination of the public. It was even turned into a movie starring Tom Hanks, but supposedly it sucked the big one and never went anywhere. His next novel wouldn't come out for 11 years, but when it did, it hit hard. A Man in Full tells the story of a rich white guy in Atlanta who's about to lose everything. Good! Death to the rich! Again, this looks at the entirety of the city of Atlanta, examining lots of different viewpoints of the people who live there. Charlie Croker is offered the chance to get all of his money back if he would testify against his best friend's daughter in a court of law. The young and vulnerable Elizabeth Armholster claims to have been assaulted by a young black athlete named Farik Fannin. He says she wanted it from the start. Well, the mayor, the first black mayor of the town, says it doesn't matter whether he did or not. The news will get a hold of it and have a field day with it, which could result in race riots all over the city. Southern racism. The book would have been incomplete without it. He's hoping that Charlie will identify with the kids since they're both star athletes from the one, the only, Georgia Tech! Christ, I bet they both lost against them dogs, didn't they? Oh yeah! I just went there. Meanwhile, Charlie's ex-wife and her boyfriend are trying to find out how to screw Charlie out of his money and make a name for themselves. How does one get this pot boiling faster? Go to California. Yeah, there's this guy in California who works for a branch of Charlie's Food Corporation out there. He risks his life to save one of his co-workers in the meat locker and is rewarded handsomely. He's laid off. Being pissed from losing his job, he gets in a hassle with an impound lot and gets thrown in jail. Record people, they can go straight to hell. He eventually has to escape prison and gets ferried out of town, thrust into the Atlanta underworld. He eventually ends up, you guessed it, working as a home nurse for Charlie Croker. Along the way, he picks up Stoic philosophy from a book he misordered and preaches the good word about Zeus and non-materialism. So yeah, the book's long. Jesus Christ, this one is 750 pages, again with tiny little print that nearly ripped my pupils out. The things I do for love. But I really liked this book, so I'll let it pass. If I wasn't from Georgia and hadn't spent a lot of time in Atlanta, I probably wouldn't care that much, but as it stands, I ate it right up. Part of it is the character of Charlie Croker himself. He's an old-school, southern boss type of guy, even though he's got himself a nice, cushy, white-collar job. He played football for Georgia Tech and busted his knee open, which he takes quite a bit of pride in. There's a passage about how he wants to prove he's still a man, because he hurt his leg with football! For those of you who don't know, Georgia Tech football is huge down here, especially in the Atlanta area. I had several relatives who went to Tech, and my uncle still works there. He's a hell of an engineer. I'm kind of the shame of the family since I go for UGA. Yeah, they have a big rivalry, officially dubbed clean, old-fashioned hate. But getting back on topic, Charlie is depicted as one of those half-assed racists who like to tell himself he's just in tune with the real world. Kind of like me. It even says that a girl was raped because these college kids today with their PC attitudes, they forget how things really are. Yeah, he's so in tune that he divorced his loving wife of 20 years and married a younger, hotter version of her. And squeezed out a new baby. Really, the guy's kind of despicable. I mean, he doesn't care about anyone but himself, though he acts like he's the nicest guy anyone knows. I suppose all millionaires are like that to some degree. Even though I can't help but like the guy, there's just something about him. Overall, the book does have a few subplots and scenes that could be cut, but nearly everything in it fits, and it really comes together in the end. It's at least worth checking out. As I'm sure you guessed, this book didn't float too well in Atlanta. Wolfe was invited to speak at a thing downtown, but after they actually read the book, he was no longer welcomed. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Still, it didn't hurt his wallet too much, as the book was an instant bestseller and topped all the charts. It's amazing they never made a movie of it, but I guess that after that last disaster, no one wanted to touch it. He came out with a couple more books of fiction, like I Am Charlotte Simmons, which I am not reading under any circumstances, though it wasn't until 2012 he caught at my eye again with the epic of Miami, Back to Blood. I gotta say, the title reeled me in. Surely it would be some kind of dressing down of the city, digging into the relationship of the wealthy upper class, which exists because of the huge cocaine trade that swept up the town, and the necessity of crime in a big city like that. Wrong! It's about this Cuban cop who pisses off the Cuban community because he risks his life to arrest Cubans who are breaking the law. The mayor doesn't like him because he's liable to start race riots. We have a variation here. Instead of black racism, it's Hispanic racism. They're really moving forward. There's also a subplot about the cop's girlfriend who works with a psychologist who's taking advantage of a rich guy with an addiction to pornography. I bet Tom did a lot of research into that. Let's see, there's also something about, forget it, it's not interesting. This book was weak. While the main plot was kinda cool, it ultimately fizzles out, with the subplots being predominantly stupid. It was well written, and even includes a reference to Godzilla in one scene, so I can't hate it. Again, it's 700 and something pages long, but lo and behold, the print is actually big, and spaced out. Whoop-de-doo, someone figured out I don't want to go blind. Give that man a medal. I wasn't the only one who didn't like this book. It received lots of bad reviews and didn't top the charts or anything. I guess Wolfe is just going into retirement? I don't know. I would like to see him do a take on the LA scene. I mean, there's a city you can deconstruct. You think about it, Tom. Now, while A Man in Full is the definitive novel of modern Atlanta, there's one more about the old, old South. Hang in tight. I've got one more video to go before I'm gone with the wind. Georgia.